Paul and I were only a year apart. In school, we were always very close. Our parents were alcoholics, so it was very difficult. Jamie was the idled older brother, but he was 6 years older, so he was pretty much out of the house by the time we got old enough to realize what was going on.
Paul and I were very close as children. It was a small apartment. Paul and I shared a single bed.
I have a brittle bone disease, so I was bedridden. I was always in plaster. I would have one fracture after the next. He would just sit on the edge of my bed and we'd play.
We had long nights whispering and sharing secrets and getting into trouble with our parents.
Our favorite game was Stratego. So we would play about 60 games of Stratego every day.
Right from the get-go, he was a curious and intelligent child, something that carried over into all of his later endeavors.
Pretty much my sole playmate until I got into maybe fifth through high school, when I started having crushes on his boyfriends and he dated every one of my girlfriends.
He was always the guinea pig in my experiments. I had a chemistry lab and an electronics lab in the basement of my parents' home. When we moved from Buffalo to the city of Tonawanda, I remember one weekend I rigged up an electric chair with a coil from an old Model T, which put out a lot of voltage, but not much current. So it didn't kill him, thank God, but it fried his fanny and he flew into the air, at least 3 feet.
We were running 80 students a semester in the jewelry program. Paul was my right-hand man. He started with me and then he graduated, but he kept coming back. When I went on sabbatical, then I would give him a key and then I just took off for a year, and then when I'd come back, he still had the studio going. And most of the students, trusted him like they trust me. And he probably helped them many times more than I did. Paul had a passion for everything in life, He was so brilliant that whatever he did, if he got into organic chemistry, he'd ace it. He wanted to be a veterinarian. I'm sure he could have done that, but jewelry grabbed him and he just took off with it and did that incredibly well.
Paul and my relationship is close to maybe 14 years. We have, different jewelers working in the business and everything. Some of them have not been professionally trained. They're learning from other jewelers. He was my advisor on what stones and how to order. I would do some designing and then turn it over to him and he would do the actual design work.
I've seen his jewelry form since he's been here 30 years, and I always saw just most every piece that he's done because we would email back and forth and talk, or we would see each other at a gem show, or so I saw an awful lot of his work all the way along.
Paul was the master.
Margie was the real gem. And for 30 years.
Devastating. There was many times he would call me and he would break up and he couldn't talk, and I'll say, I'll be right there, Paul.
They were inseparable. And that hit Paul so hard.
He would just lay his head on my shoulder and just cry. It was, just the hardest thing he'd ever been through, and he was devastated. She was his whole life.
I don't think he ever really recovered from that loss.
Paul has known us for about 8 years. I had a bird that turned around and loves to get on my shoulder, and he turned around and chewed through my chain. So when he did that, I brought my chains and my jewelry over to him, and Paul fixed the chain, and he noticed that I had a golf clubs, which I love to play golf. And he said to Judy, he says, there's no golf ball on the club. So he put a pearl, on the top of the golf club. And I says, this guy is unbelievable.
I first met Paul on a chat room. We were both widows. I was widowed in July of '06 and Paul was widowed in May of '08. There were a bunch of widows and widowers who didn't have any children, and Paul and I gradually started staying late after the others had left.
I knew that Joy and Paul were both on the grow site. Everybody that knows Joy was really concerned because she'd been through such a hard time with the passing of her first husband.
At the beginning of 2010, we started talking more intimately, more friendly, developing our relationship.
I think the normal reaction is that's online, and how do you know that this person's being honest with you and not just telling you what it is that he wants you to hear.
By August, I had decided that I wanted to meet him, and he was willing. So I arranged a trip for Colorado Springs and came out and met him.
We were all very protective. We didn't want anybody to hurt our friend.
It may have seemed like a short amount of time that we spent together, but I think because Paul and I were both widowed, we realized the potential that's embedded in a relationship, and we both worked very hard at being completely open and honest with each other and not allowing our fears or our insecurities to step in the way.
In the later years, we had both gotten so busy, he with his jewelry business, with his new relationship.
Wednesday, I spoke with Paul on Skype on Wednesday morning, and we wished each other a good day and what are you up to and what am I up to? And it was not uncommon for us to be on Skype 8 to 10 hours a day if we were home. After supper time, I couldn't find him. I didn't know what to do. I had been phoning his home and he wasn't answering. A little after 9, I got a call from a Matt Reed, Constable Matt Reed. And he told me that Paul was dead. And I didn't know what to do. I had to phone Paul's sister, Susan, and let her know.
Got a phone call about 1 a.m, and my sister was in hysterics.
It was all very surreal. Very difficult.
I didn't believe it. I thought somebody was playing a very bad joke on me.
I think for some reason, God felt it was his time.
Being the oldest member of the family, I had expected Paul would outlast all of us.
He was so grateful that he had found the Band of Brothers and Vanguard, and just men in general who were willing to accept him as he was and support him spiritually.
Because I want to bless a brother today that I really admire. Paul, would you come up here a second, please? I know he doesn't know anything about this. Stand right here with me if you would. This brother right here, just so you know, when I got back and wanted to say, well, I want to figure out a way to even produce a ring. And I thought, I'd never done rings before, but I thought, how hard can that be? Oh my gosh. I went to jeweler after jeweler trying to figure out how to make the same, because what's hard about it is it's pierced through. And because it's pierced through, I don't know, he can tell you, but it caused some problems where I could never get the thing to work. And so, I went a couple of years trying to figure out, how do you make a freaking ring? Why should that be so hard? And it went from Joe after Joe, and one said, you really need to find a man by the name of Paul Reily. Our story early on, though, had nothing to do. It was just basically a business relationship. A year ago, Paul's wife suddenly passed away. And it was just an honor that he called me and told me, and we've been developing that relationship from then. And so it's very bizarre, though, that now I would be, you designed it and you created it, but I want to bestow upon you a ring to say, brother, I believe in you.
I appreciate that.
That's all. You can actually probably resize it.
Pretty good at
that. He can handle it. I want to read this to you. I give you this ring as a symbol of my belief in you. I've seen your true identity. You reflect God uniquely. I see in you a warrior for Christ. I am certain that when God looks at you, He is proud. I want to stand by you and fight for your life and your legacy. When you need a friend, I'm here. There's no obligation to wear this ring. There's no expectation of anything in return. But I love you as a brother.
I think the thing that I love most about Paul is his loving, easygoing nature. It's when everything else is gone and faded in memory, his laugh will be what I remember.
Paul's laugh was completely infectious. Lots of times he'd be laughing away and you didn't have a clue what he was laughing at. But he would get you laughing so hard, it was just like, I have no idea what I'm laughing about, but I have to laugh.
He was a small man, but he had a heart to serve.
He always had time to listen. He always had time to care.
He was a soldier. Honor him.
Who will help me carry him?
It's sad for us who are left behind, but for Paul, I know it's very sad for Joy because it's a new relationship that they've formed.
He gave himself to me unreservedly, and I did to him as well. And we were looking forward to a good future together.
Every time I look at Joy, there's a special meaning to it for me now.
He's with Margie, and with my mom and dad, and with my Nana and Pop, and all those that have gone before us. And Mr. Bear is running with him now when there's no more cancer. So he's in a far, far better place than we are.
Everybody loved Paul.
I finished the race. I kept the faith. He finished strong. He finished very strong.
I will see you again. But not yet.